There was never a moment that was anything that was less than sickening and frightening and disgusting to me through that whole period.
Graham Wilson is effectively the reason this story is being told. This video is from 2007. We'd sat down with him because his godmother in British Columbia cold called me one day and said, "Can you talk to Graham? He's a mess." Graham then told me that when he was a teenager back in the 1980s, he'd been sexually assaulted, raped by a Mountie, though the accusation was unproven. Then Graham told me there were multiple other victims. But even then, 20 years later, nobody outside the police knew who they were or how to find them. It's only now that we can finally tell their stories.
I was repeatedly assaulted and victimized and stalked by Constable Don Cook while he's wearing his RCMP uniform.
Definitely Abbotsford was my home. I played my hockey here, and then of course...
Bob Callan is one of the other men and women now alleging sexual assaults by that Mountie. He took us to one of the places where he says it happened to him as a young teen, a hockey rink in Abbotsford, BC. Don Cook, the Mountie, was also Callan's hockey coach. That's him on the right, with Callan's team in 1985. Cook also coached this team with younger players, the team sponsored by the RCMP itself.
It's been a long time, and I don't think there's a day that goes by that you don't remember kind of things that have happened and things that will never go away, and you'll remember them for the rest of your life, and they're not always the memories you want to listen to, or remember, that's for sure.
Callan has described assaults in the showers in Cook's sports car at Cook's house. He has never before spoken publicly about any of it. He and others complained to police in the 2000s, but no charges followed. Fear of stigma kept him and others from speaking out publicly. Likewise, fear of retaliation.
Did you complain at the time?
I never complained because I was told that because of his position, because of his knowledge with policing, that I would be killed. I would vanish. Nobody would ever find me.
He told you that?
Yes, he did. If I said anything to anybody.
There's a $100 bill on the counter.
Back in 2007, it was Graham Wilson's call to CBC that led us eventually to Bob Callan, and Callan in turn led us eventually to another man, Tom Thiessen, who, like Callan, is now speaking out, but asked that his face be hidden. He told us that as a 14-year-old, Cook befriended, groomed, then sexually assaulted him.
Not wrestled, but held down and basically raped, right? And it's very sickening.
In fact, he says Cook befriended Thiessen's whole family, so much that Thiessen's parents put Cook's photo on the wall at the Thiessen home, where it hung for years. It sickened Tom, but he kept quiet as the alleged assaults continued, including, it's alleged, multiple times in this farmer's field near Tom's house while Cook was on duty.
You're in his police cruiser?
Yeah, always in his police cruiser.
He's assaulting you in a police cruiser?
Yeah, that's correct. Several times.
Although Cook was investigated but never charged, over the years and at different times, Wilson, Callan, Thiessen, and a former teammate of Callan, Travis Pierce, each launched civil suits against Cook and the RCMP. Wilson told us he and his family complained about Cook in 1982, but police say they have no record of that. Thiessen told us another RCMP constable, Cook's roommate, once found him in Cook's bed and did nothing.
2 cops, 2 Mounties in the house. One of them is sleeping with a 14-year-old boy, and the other one does nothing.
Yeah, that's correct.
A decade later, that other Mountie, a fellow coach with Cook on one of those hockey teams, pulled out his gun at an RCMP detachment on Vancouver Island, put it to his head, and pulled the trigger. And now, from Newfoundland's South Shore, where Cook was transferred in '86, more allegations. 2 women tell CBC News Cook cultivated malicious sexual relationships with each of them as teenagers. In a statement, one of them writes, "He kept telling me to relax and trust him." One says he once locked her, terrified, in an RCMP holding cell.
One voice missing in all of this is that of Don Cook, long gone from Abbotsford, having faced questions, lawsuits, and a criminal investigation. For years, he's been living a life, for the most part quietly and far away, in Ontario.
To be clear, Don Cook has always denied sexual misconduct. In fact, in 2010, he sued the Mounties for wrongly investigating him, calling the RCMP strongly homophobic, and said he now suffers depression and panic attacks from all the stress. The suit was settled privately. He said Bob Callan is angry and bitter because Cook once banned him from the hockey team, and that Wilson once failed a lie detector test and is unreliable and his story untrue. We reached Cook by cell phone to offer up an on-camera interview.
I'll speak to my lawyer. I think that would be appropriate. He'd be the one that would respond.
Cook's lawyer later wrote to CBC underlining Cook was investigated but never charged, and that Cook, who's now retired, strenuously denies ever sexually assaulting anyone.
Did he say anything at that?
The RCMP declined comment on this story but has long disputed liability. Last week, it entered into talks toward a settlement with Callan, Thiessen, and Pierce.
Sad part is, he'll always... Seems like he'll always have a small piece of you, Sometimes that's hard to let go. Because you beat yourself up so much to think so many things of, how you should have got out of it or what you should have done different or why were you in that position, for him to be, you to be so vulnerable.
It makes me very angry that nobody listened and that he's still out on the street, and I believe he's probably still doing what he did to us, and everybody has to pay, and that the system didn't stop him when they should have.
If the RCMP settles, it's all too late for Graham Wilson. He abandoned his lawsuit years ago, then effectively he disappeared off the grid until 2017, when someone found his body dead in a trailer in a homeless encampment. He'd overdosed on fentanyl.
In a lot of ways, it has destroyed who I was or who I could have been, my capabilities, the things, my dreams. It destroyed all my dreams. Anything I wanted to do in my life, I never did.
Out on the ice, Bob Callan every now and again still laces up and smashes that puck around. These days, it's with his grown son, both hardened by years of chasing justice and a system they say betrayed and failed those who spoke out. Callan's only goal now, he says, is simply for Canadians to know this story and learn from it.
Paul, where does this story go next?
Well, the short answer is that mediation that could result in a settlement is ongoing between those making the allegations and the RCMP. As ever, if there is a settlement reached, there would likely be a non-disclosure aspect to it, as is usual in such circumstances. To be clear, Don Cook, the former Mountie, is not part of the mediation process, and again, to this day, he denies he's ever sexually assaulted anyone.
All of this, Paul, has been playing out for years. Why has it taken so long?
Allegations about crimes that happen behind closed doors or in other private places are complicated. And allegations about sexual assault and speaking publicly about them, for obvious reasons, are particularly difficult, especially so when the alleged incidents are decades old. These lawsuits have been winding their way through the system for the better part of a dozen years. Those making the allegations have been slowed down by process, but they have never wavered in their determination to see this through. And while their names have been public at various times over the years because of court documents, it took them until now to speak out because it's hard to speak out about this. Graham, the first person in our story, did speak to us, of course, years ago, but at the time, he was the only one, which makes our job complicated. As I say in the piece, we've now spoken directly with a number of others. Some are in our story, others are not, but only now are those who did speak out able and willing to do this publicly because they felt it important enough to go on the record and for others to hear their story. And so here we are.
All right. Paul, thank you.
You're welcome.